Do vaccines work? Are conspiracy theories real? These are very difficult questions to answer on a Nomadistani news broadcast. Okay, that's actually a lie. Vaccines do work, and chemtrails are not dropping 5G nanobots down onto you. It's not happening in the real world. But what is also true is there are certain, shall we call them creatures, that are far more dangerous than any perceived jab or pseudoscience known to man. And these creatures, they're lurking everywhere. This is Nomadistan Investigates. We in the glorious Republic of Nomadistan have recognized that there are 11 separate creatures lurking here in the woods, which could be dire for your health. The Department of Sarcasm has recently released a field guide for spotting dangerous nonsense. Your copy of the manual is at rickhiggins.com. In today's broadcast, we are going to examine the top 3 threats which are plaguing the nations to our south, east, and north. Ideologic creatures so persistent and so deadly that not even satire alone might be able to prevent your death. Now, it should be noted that these creatures do not currently exist in Nomadistan. We removed them years ago, much like snakes in Ireland, through sarcasm, parody, and a lot of necessary eye rolls. But alas, while we in Nomadistan can sleep in our beds comfortably at night knowing these creatures are far, far away, over on the shores of Supremistan, they cannot make such a claim. For there, the infestations are not only persistent, they are growing. Freedom-fanged Patriot vipers. These creatures scream about freedom, but they leave liberty in ruins. They wrap themselves in banners, but then they burn every single bridge. They say that they support choice, but they only support choice for themselves. In the frontier regions of Supremistan, the viper has become a very common sight. Loud, venomous, and deeply resistant to logic. These creatures invade and shut down small businesses. They once attacked a compost factory screaming about sovereign soil rights. We turn now to our investigative reporter Rick Higgins, who has followed a horde of these creatures to an abandoned COVID testing site where they are screaming slogans about an anti-mask coup. And what he discovered may not be defined as free, but it was definitely defined as dumb. I'm Rick Higgins, and I am standing in an abandoned COVID testing site, now empty except for piles of pamphlets, unused masks, and the lingering smell of engine exhaust. According to eyewitnesses, a gang of freedom-loving vipers attempted to stage what was known as a liberation of nasal sovereignty, albeit a coup that was several years too late. Their leader, a man wearing 3 flags and no shirt, declared that swabs were weapons of psychological submission. When asked who he was liberating, the man stated, "The faces of our children." The leader and his followers stormed the site, chanting death to scientists, and they also put up a laminated picture of Dr. Fauci behind me, where they threw darts and nails at it. After they dismantled an empty and unused hand sanitation station, while proclaiming this is how they get you, they erected that freedom gazebo with PVC pipes and old tarps. But the coup soon turned ugly when everyone turned on each other. There was a loud debate over freedom nostrils and what that actually meant. Eyewitnesses further reported that the chants of "my life, my choice, my breath" were interrupted by a serious coughing fit brought about by excessive smoking. From there, our investigative team followed the remainder of the crowd to a composting facility where they spray-painted phrases such as "soil is woke." The facilitator from the facility came out to discuss things with the crowd. He was armed with a book on organic farming, which unfortunately angered the alpha males in the group, who took it as a liberal attack. But after several hours, the crowd dispersed after one of them saw that plants growing in the compost were actually healthy. He screamed witchcraft. Everyone fled. For Nomadistan Investigates, I'm Rick Higgins. Back to you, Rick, in the studio. The second plague, which is plaguing our neighboring neighbors, is as silent as it is stubborn, and it is also an erosion from within. They are known by many names: self-taught thinkers, and that guy who thinks that school is for sheep, and then he stepped on a rake and hit himself in the face with the handle. But our Department of Defensive Curiosity knows them by another name. They are education denouncers. These creatures do not read. They scroll. They do not listen. They follow, often very loudly. And they are spreading faster than a viral TikTok challenge which believes that humans can defy gravity. In Supremistan, many communes have been completely hollowed out by this menace. Learning circles have been abandoned. Libraries have been turned either into oil refineries or into campaign offices for coal workers' rights. And in the schools, multiple break-ins have happened. Chalkboards defaced with slogans such as, "Oppressive libtards, go home." One creature was even seen urinating on a history book while proclaiming loudly that he was reverse hydrating through ancestral reprogramming. Our correspondent followed a trail of confused children, half-baked facts, and fully baked adults. What he uncovered was not just the denial of education, but the reinvention of ignorance. I'm reporting from a field just outside what used to be a thriving educational cooperative. Silent, except for the distant echoes of screaming, "I don't need books to learn things." An education denouncer first appeared here 2 moons ago, carrying nothing but a broken iPad and a mistrust of anyone who knew how to use a semicolon. Witnesses say that the creature began with a confident proclamation. "I am not indoctrinated. I watch real people on the internet all of the time." It led a small group of self-proclaimed unschoolers of Supremistan in burning several copies of an encyclopedia. They then set up a whiteboard scribbling angrily, "Feelings equals facts. Facts do not equal facts." One former teacher described the scene as emotionally traumatic and grammatically incorrect. Children were told that math was elitist, grammar was a social construct, and that all science was fake because the earth was indeed flat. A young girl addressed the group and asked, "Then where does rain come from?" One of the members replied, "Because God is crying." And after rejecting basic ideas such as evidence, time, and shared definitions, the group attempted to create a brand new curriculum based entirely on intuition and sound bites. The group finally disbanded after a failed attempt to harvest misinformation from the laboratory's sealed test tubes. For Nomadistan Investigates, I am also Rick Higgins, and I can confirm that reading still works. Our final investigation tonight takes us deep into the dried-out riverbeds of reason, where hope is sold by the ounce and science is treated like superstition. For over there, in the fringe markets of Supremistan, lies another creature, the snake oil swallower. They are not healers, they are high-functioning deniers, hawking goods with one hand while pointing fingers with the other. To them, all vaccines are a poison, but bleach is considered a wellness shot. To them, public health is considered tyranny, but a man named Steve selling mushroom salve from the back of his van, that's called freedom. Their logic is homeopathic. The more diluted it becomes, the more effective they believe it will be. Inspired by the words of failed prophets and more than one failed celebrity, they have declared war on reality, armed only with vitamin C and charisma. Some even quote the Book of RFK, Chapter 12, Section 3, which states, "Do your own research. The scientists don't know it all." Our investigative team followed one purveyor of such perverted nonsense as he traveled from one festival to the other, leaving behind a trail of only empty bottles, swollen lymph nodes, and several podcast invitations. What we discovered was not health, it was not truth, but a booming black market in bottled misinformation. Locals tell us that he arrived in an old diesel-powered Mercedes, armed only with a necklace of garlic and overpowering confidence. As the creature disembarked from his Mercedes, he could be screaming to anyone who would listen that vaccines are simply injections. They are mind-altering serums designed to infect the purity of your thoughts. He then opened a box of vials labeled NanoCleanse 33, which he proclaimed would erase government programming and also whiten your teeth. One bystander, while examining a vial, asked him if it was approved by the FDA. He responded that no, not yet, but a gentleman named Bryce took it every single day and he was still healthy and he lives near a hospital. Our investigative team traced his teachings to a spiral-bound notebook titled The Healing Power of Hydrogen, which had a foreword of someone who had interviewed RFK Jr. on a bet. During one such speech, he proclaimed that CPR training was invalid, that all you needed was compressed air for deep state revival, which completely confused the crowd. He then proceeded to demonstrate natural immunity by licking several doorknobs and howling at the sun. He proclaims himself to be Dr. Truth, although his physician credentials appear to be a PDF downloaded from a natural oils forum. And when confronted by his lack of peer-reviewed articles, he proclaimed, "Peer pressure is the real disease." For Nomadistan Investigates, I'm still Rick Higgins, and I'm off to get vaccinated again, just in case. Hi, I'm the real Rick Higgins, and you're not. And I think I'm going to have the lawyers from Saturday Night Live come after me for that one, assuming any of them that are old enough to know that line still live. I will never understand people who deny science, who deny education, who deny people who have spent their entire lives researching subjects, becoming knowledgeable experts, who know the value of, I might be wrong. Let's see what else we can find out. Vaccines just were the tip of the iceberg. Are they marketed by companies purely for greed and packaged so that somebody somewhere can make a lot of money? Yes, they are. Do vaccines work? Also yes. Do vaccines cause autism? No. One paper out of a gazillion suggested that they did. And then years later, the idiot who wrote that paper walked it back. I created this entire video based on an article that I wrote on Substack that started out with vaccines. I think it was on CNN or The Guardian or some news site. I had it in my head that I couldn't take any more. And so the article is a field guide to recognizing nonsense into the wild. It was actually kind of funny. It's a little bit different than this broadcast. The article lists, I think, 11 different creatures that you should definitely be aware of. They definitely live in Supremistan, which, if you haven't guessed, by the way, is code for the United States of America. And yes, as I alluded to earlier, your field guide is available out there. Again, rickhiggins.com will get you to Substack. It's somewhere on the Nomadistani list. It's probably near the top if you're watching this video. I only wrote it a couple days ago. And so, if you, like I, are just a wee bit tired of the anti-intellectual, stubborn conspiracy naysayer phenomena that surrounds us and just makes us crazy, welcome to the Republic of Nomadistan. Created for people not on either end, not for liberals, not for conservatives, not even for people in the middle, but for people who are just tired of the frickin' nonsense, want to make fun of everyone, including themselves, and get back to the business of growing, learning, thinking, and helping everybody. Okay, I'm a little worked up. This was not one of my favorite topics to think about, but it certainly was a favorite one to discuss. So, thanks for coming by.